Yo, what is up? It is your boy Zether back at it again with a brand new part. So, what if Deku had Panther Sage mode? Now, on the last part, we had essentially left off with, Deku basically losing his parents, being trained in, Panther Sage mode, and, returning back to human society, as well as taking the UA entrance exam and, getting a scholarship so that he could basically go to school for free, as well as being in the school dorms that they have. And we basically left off with Deku taking the quirk assessment test and basically acing it. And he had basically just gone back to his dorm, as he would have just been, thinking about how life has treated him so far. And he's actually kind of happy, Even though he lost his parents, he wouldn't have it any other way because, it led him down the path that he's at now. And he's happy. He still misses them, however, but, he's happy about it. So, that being said, we're going to go ahead and cut right into their first day of class. So everything would basically be normal up until they basically start calling roll call. Now, as soon as that happens, they would say Katsuki Bakugo, as he would say here. As Deku would say Katsuki Kachan, as he just says that out loud. And Bakugo looks back as he then says, "Who said that?" As he then looks at Deku and actually gets a good look this time. Actually paying attention to how he looks, his features, and, everything. As, Aizawa then proceeds to say, "Izuku Midoriya," as Deku says here, as Deku and Bakugo were just staring at each other, as they were just wondering how each other was. Deku was wondering how Bakugo's been after all this time, with Bakugo wondering, like what happened to Deku, like how is he still alive, and how did he come back so strong. As Deku would proceed to walk up to Bakugo, as he says, "Hey, long time no," as Bakugo would just kind of ignore him and say, "Things haven't changed, Deku. Just because you have a quirk doesn't mean you're better than me." As Deku would just say, "Oh, okay," as he would proceed to walk back to his seat, as, he would just start talking to Momo for the rest of the day, as, things would go as normal. He would hang out with Uraraka, Momo, he would also hang out with Ida, since Ida actually got, friends with Deku. And the rest of the day would go by normally up until All Might busts in through the door saying, "I am here," walking through the door like a normal person. As Deku's like, "All Might, hey," as All Might's just like, "Hello there, young man," as Deku says, like, "Wow, like, I can't believe you're teaching here." As All Might would just smile and say, "Well, I'm gonna be your teacher for your first year." As Deku was just thrilled. I mean, he's gonna have All Might as his teacher, his idol, the person that he looks after, this is a dream come true. As Deku would just be happy, as All Might would then proceed to tell them that in order to be a hero, they gotta look the part. So then he would open the wall, as it would reveal that they have the boxes to their costumes, as Deku would smile thinking that it's time. As Deku would go into the changing room and put his costume on, as he would step out, as everybody would come out with their amazing costumes. Now, this is when Deku would actually walk out and actually take a look at Momo, as he sees her looking like a snack, and he would proceed to, he'll go over there and talk to her, he'll spit some game, getting a little bit of some. And Momo would actually look at him and the outfit that he's wearing in the thumbnail. That's essentially what his costume is. As Momo would just be like, "Wow, your costume's amazing." As Deku would just say, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." As she would say, as she would just be stuttering, not really knowing what to say, as Deku would say, "Oh yeah, your suit it's amazing. It fits you flawlessly." As she would blush a little bit, and Deku would just like kind of smile. Now, this is when All Might would proceed to look at everybody, as he then says that they're going to be having some hero training. As, it's announced that the teams are going to be Deku and Momo versus Bakugo and Ida. As soon as Bakugo hears this, his ears perk up, as he then says, "Finally, I get a chance to prove myself, and I get to destroy that nerd just like old times." As Deku then walks up to Bakugo and said, "Hey, let's have a pretty cool match." As Bakugo would slap his hand away and say, "Get that thing out of my face. I'm going to crush you." As Deku would just walk away, and Momo would look at him and ask, "What's going on?" As Deku would tell her that when he was a kid, he was bullied by that kid, as, they used to be childhood friends, but Deku went on a trip, as, his parents had died, and he was basically surviving in the jungle for the last 10 years. As Momo would say, "What? You survived this?" Deku would say, "Yeah, I mean, it definitely made me a lot stronger, since, as you can tell, my quirk is developed, and I definitely grew up with manners." And she would say, yeah, as Deku would just smile and be like, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna bite." As she would say, "Oh no, trust, I know you're not." As, things would continue like this. And, the matches would essentially be told that they're going to be started. So Momo and Deku would proceed to walk up to the building as Bakugo and Ida are at the top floor, as Bakugo tells Ida not to get in his way, that if he does, he's going to crush him in his 4 eyes. As Ida's just like, what? How dare you talk to your classmates like this? Also, not going to lie, guys, I need a quick water break. Hold up. That is much better. Anyways, that being said, Bakugo would walk out and would proceed to do what he had done in canon, saying that he's going to find that quirkless loser or that bastard and destroy him and show him that no matter what he does, no matter what quirk he gets, he's always going to be better than him. As Deku is not thinking about things like that. You know, he's just wondering why Kachan is being so angry. As Bakugo just has a look in his eyes that shows that he's angry and he wants to prove it. As, you know, he's always going to be stronger than that quirkless Izuku. As, you know, he's wondering how the hell he ended up getting a quirk. So, just like in canon, Bakugo would be rushing everywhere. As Bakugo would turn the corner and Deku would tell Momo that she has to essentially find the bomb and tell him when she finds it. As Momo would look at him and say, right. And she would then run off as Bakugo would say, I guess your backup is gone now, so it's going to be even easier for me to crush you. As Deku would say, I'm not so sure about that, Bakugo. And as soon as Bakugo strikes, Deku just activates his Sage Mode quickly, having a black aura surround him. As Deku just kind of has his eyes, you know, start having a little bit of an electricity or a spark in them. As Deku then blitzes behind Bakugo, grabbing his head and smashing it into one of the walls. As Bakugo's head ricochets off of it and he then falls down to the ground. As Deku then kicks him away. As Bakugo then, as he's like, ow, how'd you get so strong? As Deku would be walking up to him as he would say, I trained Bakugo, as he would kick Bakugo in the chin, as Bakugo would get sent flying into a wall, as Bakugo would then say, it doesn't matter what quirk you got, you're always gonna be weaker than me, Izuku. You're nothing, as he would then say, now die! As he would pull the pin off of his gauntlet, as it would send a massive explosion towards Izuku, as Deku would turn himself into a shadow and go through the next room by. As Deku would dodge the explosion and Bakugo would get up saying, I took him down. That was way easier than I expected. As Deku and Bakugo would proceed to, you know, look at each other as Deku just pops up, showing that he has no damage at all. As Bakugo would say, what the hell? What is your quirk, Deku? As he would say, my quirk is Panther Sage Page. I forgot what I named it, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But he would tell him the name of his quirk, and Bakugo would be like, it doesn't matter what quirk you have. You're still gonna be a useless Deku. As Deku would say, things have changed, Bakugo, but I can see that you haven't. As he would then proceed to rush at Bakugo, as he and Bakugo get into a fist fight, as Deku stops using his Sage Mode entirely, using nothing but his base strength, as Deku would be keeping up with Bakugo, but Bakugo uses his unorthodox movements to start catching Deku off guard, shooting an explosion into one of Deku's sides, as Deku would turn into a shadow, not being able to get attacked, as Deku would just blitz around Bakugo, attacking him without Bakugo being able to do a thing about it. As Bakugo would then be taken out unconscious, and as this is happening, Momo would have actually found the location of the bomb, as she would have seen that Ida would have actually taken everything out of the room, and she would decide that the best way to go about this would be to create a toxic gas that could knock Ida out, forcing him to be unconscious and letting her get quick, easy access to the bomb. As she would create, a smoke bomb or like a gas that would knock Ida out upon, breathing it. As she would throw it in the room, and Ida would then breathe it unknowingly, as he would then pass out unconscious. As Momo would then rush in there and touch the bomb right as Deku threw the last hit to Bakugo, knocking him out and dropping him to the floor. As she would then say, as All Might would then say, hero team wins. As Deku would just look at Bakugo as he then says, well, Bakugo, I can see things haven't changed much, but one thing that has is that I'm not useless anymore. I'm strong and I'm going to become one of the greatest heroes, and there's nothing you can do about it. As Bakugo would just be unconscious, not hearing any of this. So that would end up finishing the entirety of the heroes versus villains thing, where everything else would essentially go to canon. Now, after this, Deku and Momo would say they make a pretty good team, as Deku would actually ask her for her number, and she would say that she'd actually be glad to give him her number, as Deku would smile, thinking that, yes, you guys, like, yes, like, I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna go ahead and get this little girl. As, Deku and Momo would actually proceed to text after school. And Deku would actually proceed to, get to know her, as they would actually be talking on the phone, a little bit of FaceTime, as he and her would just be talking, and she would ask him, where he lives, as Deku would actually reveal to her that he actually has a, UA scholarship, so he's actually living in the dorms, and she would say that, what? He has a scholarship? As Deku would say, yeah, Principal Nezu actually gave it to me after seeing that I was an orphan. And she would say that, you're an orphan? As Deku would explain everything that had happened, where, the jungle, how he lost his parents, and how, he has no family, so he basically went into an orphanage, and UA decided to lend him a hand, and he's pretty grateful for it. As Momo would say that, wow, like, that's incredible, and you're still the way you are, like, you didn't turn to villainy, you lost your parents, you grew up in the jungle, and you came back wanting to be a hero even more. You're amazing, Deku. As, Deku would just be like, yeah. As he would ask her about her, and she would tell him about herself, letting him know that she's actually pretty rich and she's pretty loaded. As Deku would say that, that's amazing, telling her that she should be extremely grateful for the life that she has. As Momo would say that she is. As, Deku and Momo would proceed to be like, oh, like, we should go out. As Deku would say that, he doesn't exactly have any money to be able to pay for anything, so he doesn't know if they'll be able to actually go out anytime soon. As Momo would say that, it's fine, she can actually cover it. As Deku would ask if she's sure, since, he doesn't have an allowance or job. He's in school, and most of his time is taken up by that. So, that being said, Deku would proceed to be like, well, if it's okay with you, then yeah. As, they would proceed to use the next couple of weeks to, hang out. This being 2 weeks, they would go out every now and then, as Deku and Momo would actually be going to parks, they would be going to arcades, they'd be going out to eat, they'd definitely be getting to know each other, have a little bit of development. As one day, Deku and Momo were actually walking out, they were walking to Momo's house, as they were actually taking a bit of a shortcut, when suddenly a quirk guy with, a water quirk would come in to try to mug them, as Momo would have gotten, almost slashed by one of the water quirk users, knives that he creates with his water. He creates weapons out of water, and that's essentially when Deku would turn into a shadow and knock the guy unconscious, as Momo would just say that he's so powerful. As Deku would tell her that, he has trained for 10 years extremely hard. As she would say that, his training is sure as hell awesome. As he would say that it is pretty cool. As Momo and Deku would proceed to just walk home to Momo's house, as he would drop her off and then get to UA. So that would basically be what Deku and Momo would be up to, as well as school and studying together. And during that time, Deku would have definitely gotten to meet the Yaoyorozu family, as, her father actually would be impressed by, Deku's quirk, his intelligence, his ability to, not let things get to him, as Deku would just be happy that, he's accepted by Momo's family. As, Momo would have liked to meet Deku's parents, but Deku would just tell her that, if she would have met them, he's sure that they would have loved her. As she would smile, and Deku would just, hang out for a little bit, as, that would basically be what's going on in terms of outside of school. Now, we're going to go ahead and skip over to the USJ arc, as Deku and Momo would be sitting on the bus just talking, as Asui then says, who do you guys think is the strongest in the class? Like, I think it's Todoroki with his ice quirk. As Deku would just be listening in, as he's like, yeah, that kid also has an amazing quirk. And she would say that Bakugo is also strong, but she doesn't know if he's going to be a great hero since he has that horrible temper. As Bakugo would be like, hey, watch it! As she would say, see? As they would all basically arrive back, as, as soon as Deku arrives to the USJ and sees 13, he would then just have a weird feeling. His senses would be telling him that danger is coming from the USJ, as Deku would go to Aizawa and tell him that there is a lot of people in them. He can hear them, he can smell them, and he can just feel their auras, their malicious intent. As Deku would ask Aizawa if there's supposed to be that many people in there, as Aizawa would then say that no, there's just supposed to be them. As Deku would say that, well, they need to call some reinforcements because there's definitely some bad guys there. As Aizawa would question Deku, asking him if he's sure, as Deku would say that his quirk gives him the ability to have increased senses by like 100-fold, as Deku would definitely be able to pick up on very small details like that, as Aizawa would trust Deku's judgment and actually call for a little bit of reinforcements. So everybody who would have arrived in the original canon, to help All Might, would have definitely arrived. As soon as they all arrived, Deku and Aizawa would proceed to walk in with 13. As Kurogiri would appear and he would say, "At last, the heroes," as he would say. All Might was supposed to be there, but it doesn't matter. And as Deku hears this, he would wonder, are they here after All Might? As Deku would just, he would just decide that he's not playing any games right now. So the heroes would have busted in through the building before Kurogiri could have actually teleported anyone away. And they would proceed to body the criminals, as Deku would go into his Panther Sage mode, the strongest, as he would proceed to just blitz around like a black flash, just zooming through the USJ, taking out at least 200 villains, wiping out any villains in the fire, the rock, the water, any region that he could find. As he would go by swiftly, taking them out, punching them all, elbowing them, kicking them to the ground, smashing their heads in together. As Deku would shoot air force punches, as he would definitely be strong enough to do that at this point. As Deku would just be going crazy, as the pro heroes would be extremely impressed by Deku's finesse, his technique, and his ability to get things done as quick as possible. They all think that they probably couldn't have done that even faster. They couldn't have done it even anywhere near that level, as Deku is most likely already certified to be a pro hero. Now he just needs experience. As Aizawa would smile, thinking that this kid is going to be an amazing hero. As they would proceed to take everybody out and then look straight at Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu. As Shigaraki would say that it doesn't matter who they have here, as the Nomu could take them all out. As Deku's just standing there in front of Shigaraki, as he says, "And you, I'll kill you. You took down my minions." As he would say, "Nomu, kill that kid and the heroes." As Nomu would then proceed to rush at Deku, as Deku proceeds to dodge the Nomu's attack, and Deku would proceed to punch the Nomu, who absorbs the punch and then sends Deku flying back. As Deku would then get hit back into a crater, as Deku would zoom by the Nomu and look for any weak points, as he would then begin to attack, as the sniper hero Snipe would just shoot at the Nomu, and the rest of the heroes would proceed to try to take it down, as Shigaraki would then rush at Aizawa and they would get into a fight, but Aizawa would proceed to hold down Shigaraki. As this is happening, Kurogiri would notice that they're not going to get anywhere like this, as the Nomu would have just been left behind, as Kurogiri would have just grabbed Shigaraki and teleported out of there. Now, as this is happening, Deku and the rest of the heroes would have found out that the Nomu's weakness is the brain. As Snipe would have shot it in the brain, but it would have regenerated, as Deku says that it needs to be destroyed completely without anything to regenerate. As Deku would then charge up one of his strongest attacks, a sort of attack kind of like Might Guy, I guess you could say, where he gets into a position to unleash a devastating speed and power force kick. The power of this kick is rivaling a 100% Detroit Smash by All Might. So no, it's rivaling way more than that. This kick is kind of like the Hero Dora that All Might uses. That Might Guy uses. And it basically gives him like the aura of a panther. A visible black panther would surround him, as Deku would rush at it. And he would just come in for a thunderous kick that would send the Nomu flying out of there, as the Nomu would be taken out right as All Might is just watching, as he would have arrived. And he wouldn't have actually been there first, since he's still sick, so he was recovering, and he put his faith in the rest of the heroes. So All Might would arrive, and he would then see what Deku had done. Is he would say that this kid he's amazing. He can't believe how powerful he is. As Deku would then proceed to, have the little bit of a cleanup thing, as, everybody would just proceed to, look at what Deku had done, as they all congratulate him and tell him that he's going to be an amazing hero once he graduates. As Deku smiles and thinks that it's too much praise, and Momo would have seen that amazing attack that Deku had just performed, as she would say that Deku is incredible, as Todoroki, Bakugo, and the rest of the class would have actually been watching that, as they would just be astounded. Bakugo would be fuming, thinking that he's way too powerful. He'll never be able to catch up to him. How is he gonna, as his mental state would just be twisting and turning, as he wouldn't know what the hell to do. as Deku would just proceed to basically be like, he'd be a little tired after doing that, as Deku would then proceed to, go with Momo, sorry, not Nomu, Momo, as they would proceed to just hang out a little bit, as he and her would basically have the 2-week break. And this is where I'm going to be ending the video off, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit 250 likes for the next part, and I'm going to drop it the very next day if you guys end up smashing that like button. That being said, next part I'm going to get into the 2-week break, the UA Sports Festival, and the Stain arc, so you guys better be hyped for that. That being said, it's been your boy Zether, and I am out.